Quen 2.5 Max 6:22 p.m. Understood. Below is a completely new story written in English, crafted to approximately 2,498 words. Let me know if you'd like any adjustments or additional stories. The Forgotten Village. It was a crisp autumn evening when Emma decided to take the long way home from her weekend hiking trip. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the winding country roads of Maplewood County. She loved these drives, especially in the fall when the trees were ablaze with fiery reds, oranges, and yellows. But tonight, something felt different. Emma wasn't one to believe in superstitions or ghost stories. Growing up in a small town like Maplewood meant hearing plenty of tales about haunted forests, cursed bridges, and mysterious disappearances. Most people dismissed them as local folklore, but there was always that lingering sense of unease whenever someone mentioned certain places, like Black Hollow Road. Black Hollow Road was infamous around town. Locals avoided it after dark, claiming strange things happened there. Some said they'd seen shadowy figures darting between the trees, others swore they heard whispers coming from nowhere. Emma had driven past it countless times during daylight hours without incident, so she never paid much attention to the rumors. Tonight, however, she found herself inexplicably drawn to it. Her GPS suggested an alternate route due to construction ahead, rerouting her through Black Hollow Road. Normally, she would have ignored the suggestion and stuck to the main highway, but curiosity got the better of her. "What's the worst that could happen?" she muttered under her breath as she turned onto the narrow, tree-lined road. At first, everything seemed normal. The headlights of her car illuminated the dirt path ahead, revealing nothing more than fallen leaves and overgrown bushes. The only sounds were the soft hum of her engine and the occasional rustle of wind through the trees. It was peaceful, almost serene. But then, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew colder, despite the heater running full blast inside the car. A thick fog rolled in out of nowhere, swallowing the road and obscuring visibility. Emma slowed down, squinting through the windshield as she tried to make out any landmarks. That's when she noticed it, a figure standing by the side of the road. Her heart skipped a beat. At first glance, it looked human, tall, cloaked in what appeared to be tattered robes, its face obscured by a hood. But something about it didn't seem right. Its posture was unnaturally still, and the way it tilted its head made Emma's skin crawl. She hesitated, gripping the steering wheel tightly. Should she stop? Drive faster? Turn back? Before she could decide, the figure raised an arm, not to wave, but to point deeper into the woods. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished. Shaken but determined not to let fear get the best of her, Emma pressed on. After all, it was probably just some prankster trying to scare unsuspecting drivers. Right? The further she drove, the stranger things became. The trees seemed taller now, their gnarled branches twisting together like skeletal hands reaching for her car. Shadows danced eerily along the edges of her vision, though no source of light explained their movement. And then there were the whispers, soft, indistinct murmurs that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Okay," Emma said aloud, attempting to calm herself. "This is ridiculous. I'm imagining things." She glanced at her phone, hoping for a signal, but the screen displayed nothing but no service. Great. Just great. Finally, after what felt like hours, though it couldn't have been more than 20 minutes, she spotted a faint glow up ahead. Relieved, she sped toward it, thinking it might be a house or gas station where she could ask for directions, or at least call for help. Instead, she found herself staring at an old, decrepit cabin nestled deep within the woods. Its wooden walls were weathered and cracked, and several of its windows were boarded up. A single lantern hung outside the door, swaying gently in the breeze. Despite its dilapidated appearance, the cabin exuded an odd warmth, almost inviting her inside. Against her better judgment, Emma parked her car and stepped out. The cold hit her immediately, biting at her cheeks and making her shiver. Still, she approached the cabin cautiously, knocking on the door. No answer. She knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. Hesitating for a moment, she pushed the door open slightly and peeked inside. The interior was dimly lit by a flickering fire in the hearth, casting dancing shadows across the room. There was furniture, an old couch, a rickety table, but no signs of life. "Hello?" Emma called out, her voice trembling despite her best efforts to stay calm. "Is anyone here?" Silence. Deciding it was safer to stay put rather than wander aimlessly in the woods, Emma entered the cabin and closed the door behind her. The warmth from the fire was comforting, and she allowed herself a moment to relax. Maybe whoever lived here would return soon, and she could explain her situation. As she explored the space, she noticed peculiar details. On the mantelpiece above the fireplace sat 3 framed photographs. Each depicted a family, a man, a woman, and a young boy. They looked happy, smiling broadly at the camera. Yet something about the photos unsettled her. Upon closer inspection, she realized none of the faces matched perfectly. In one photo, the boy had freckles, in another, he didn't. The woman's hairstyle changed drastically between images, and the man's beard appeared fuller in some shots than others. Confused, Emma set the frames back down and continued looking around. Her gaze landed on a journal lying open on the table. Curiosity piqued, she flipped through its pages. The entries were written in neat handwriting, detailing mundane activities like chopping wood, cooking meals, and tending to crops. But interspersed among these ordinary notes were cryptic phrases. "They're watching us. Why won't they leave us alone? We can't keep hiding forever." A chill ran down her spine. Who were they? And why did the writer feel so threatened? Suddenly, a loud creak echoed through the cabin. Startled, Emma spun around, expecting to see someone or something behind her. Instead, she saw the front door slowly swinging shut. Hadn't she closed it earlier? Panic began to rise in her chest. She rushed to the door and yanked it open, intending to flee back to her car. But instead of the familiar sight of her vehicle parked outside, she was met with dense forest. The road and her car were gone. "No, no, no," she whispered, stepping back into the cabin. This had to be a dream. Any second now, she'd wake up safe in her bed. But reality refused to comply. As she stood frozen in place, the whispers returned, louder this time. They surrounded her, filling the air with unintelligible murmurs. Desperate, she grabbed the journal and flipped frantically through its pages, searching for answers. One entry caught her eye. "If you find this, know that we tried our best. We thought we could escape, but they followed us. Don't trust the light, it's a trap. Find the mirror. Break it." Mirror? What mirror? Her eyes darted around the room until they landed on an antique mirror hanging on the far wall. Its frame was ornate, carved with intricate patterns of vines and flowers. Stepping closer, she peered into the glass. At first, it reflected only her own frightened face. But then, faint shapes began to emerge in the background, shadowy figures moving silently behind her. Heart pounding, Emma remembered the warning, "Break it." Without hesitation, she grabbed a nearby chair and swung it with all her might. The mirror shattered into dozens of pieces, scattering shards across the floor. For a brief moment, silence reigned. Then, a deafening roar filled the cabin, shaking the very foundation beneath her feet. Blinding light erupted from the broken mirror, engulfing the entire room. Emma shielded her eyes, bracing herself for whatever came next. When the light finally faded, she opened her eyes to find herself sitting in her car, parked safely on the main highway leading back to Maplewood. Relief washed over her as she took stock of her surroundings. Everything seemed normal again. The dashboard clock read 8:45 p.m., and the radio played softly in the background. Had it all been a hallucination? A vivid nightmare brought on by stress and exhaustion? Still shaken, Emma drove straight home and collapsed onto her couch. Only later, while recounting the bizarre events to her roommate, did she notice something strange. Tucked into the pocket of her jacket was a single shard of glass from the mirror. Etched faintly into its surface were 3 words. "Don't look back."